Hey guys, what's up? My name is Gio and I'm finally doing it. I'm replacing the radiator on my 2005 BMW E46 and I'll show you how to do it. Honestly, I just want to get this job over with, so I'm going to get right into it, guys. First thing you're going to want to do, as you can see, I've already done it here. I've removed my intake and I have put my car on ramps with some cardboard underneath the car. Now we're going to go to the bottom of the car, and right at the bottom of the radiator there is that little blue drain plug, and so we are going to loosen that just with a screwdriver. And also make sure to open your coolant cap because we are going to have to let the system drain. And also make sure to have your catch can right under the drain plug because this thing is about to go all over the place. Now, the only specialty tools you're actually going to be needing for this job are the fan clutch removal wrenches if you have an automatic like I do. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick them down here. Okay, I accidentally did it right. Remember that this fan clutch is actually reverse threaded, so you're going to want to spin it towards the driver's side to loosen it. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a T20 to remove this little screw right there, and then just a flathead screwdriver to pry off that little clip. Now I'm going to remove this little connector right here. Just push down, pull out. Then this whole thing, oh shoot, don't forget to unplug the fan. This all should just come right out. There we are. Just want to let you guys know that here on the left side of the radiator there were a bunch of wires just going to the fan that you had to unplug, push them out of the way, and then the whole fan just comes right out. Now I'll show you guys what the next thing I'm going to be doing is. There is a clip right there at the bottom of the expansion tank, that black clip. We're going to pull that out towards the passenger side, and then I'm going to remove the upper radiator hose from the expansion tank as well as that little hose right down there on the side. I'm just going to pry it out with a screwdriver and lift the entire expansion tank out of the car. Now, if you haven't ever replaced your expansion tank on your E46, I would recommend doing that when we're going to put this all back together because it's coming out already. And I'll put a link to the video where I replaced my expansion tank in the description. Just going to pry this upper radiator hose off with a screwdriver. Now, I'm not too worried about damaging this because I am replacing the upper and lower radiator hoses with the radiator. Again, everything will be linked down below in case you guys want to do exactly what I'm doing. And watch out with this lower hose. This is usually where all the water comes out. Okay, make sure you have that little drain pan down there because you will be dropping coolant. I had to reposition mine. The driveway just caught all the coolant pretty much. Cool, but at this point we should just be able to lift the expansion tank right out. Just be careful, pull it up and try not to twist it or move it in any other direction because you don't want to break the automatic transmission thermostat if you have an automatic transmission. And there we go. There goes the rest of the coolant. And before you fully remove the tank, remember to disconnect your coolant sensor at the bottom of the tank. Okay, now the last hose that's going to be disconnected is this hose right down there. Again, we're going to lift up that little metal clip and then pry the thing off of the automatic transmission thermostat housing. Little piece of advice while you guys are doing this, try to get as much coolant on your shoes as possible. If you can see, I've already done a great job. But anyway, the next thing we're going to be doing is using a T25 to remove that bolt right there and then the one under it, and then we're going to go to the bottom of the car and I'll show you the third one to remove. Okay, now we're at the bottom of the car, and as you can see there is a silver screw right up there. That's the last T25 we're going to remove right now. So those three screws are out. This whole bracket should theoretically just lift right out. We're going to remove this right here just by pushing it out towards the engine, using a screwdriver to pry it out and trying to wiggle it the rest of the way. And there it goes. So what I'm gonna do now is pry off that lower radiator hose right down there, and then the whole radiator should lift right out. So out with the old and in with the new. What I'm gonna do before I install that in the car is I'm going to install the mounting bracket just to the side of it, so it's easier to just put the whole thing into the car all together. Now we have the mount right there for the expansion tank, as well as the fan shroud holder right there at the bottom of the new radiator. So just make sure you take off those pieces from the old one and put them on the new one. Now again, before we install the new radiator, we are going to be replacing the upper and lower radiator hose. Just like all the other hoses, I'm gonna grab a screwdriver, I'm gonna pry off these metal clips right here, and then I'm going to pry the actual hose off, both for the upper and lower, and I'll get the new ones on there. When you're putting the new lower radiator hose, don't forget to put in the old coolant temperature sensor right there onto the new hose. Now we are going to reinstall the new radiator. Okay, so pretty much at this point we're mostly there. What we're just gonna do is plug in all the hoses back where they should go. The wires are gonna go on once we put the fan, and just make sure that all the hoses are in the correct place. Then we're just gonna put the expansion tank back on and we'll be good to go. Okay guys, everything is officially back on. Got my expansion tank, the fan shroud, all the wires are plugged in. Everything is ready to go. Last thing I'm gonna do is just refill the coolant and hopefully nothing leaks. I jacked up the car on the driver's side so that the expansion tank and the bleeder valve become the highest point of the cooling system so that we could properly bleed the system. BMW recommends that you use a 50-50 mixture of distilled water and their antifreeze or coolant, so that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm not sure if you can use other coolants. I read on forums that it's strongly not advised to do that, so I just went ahead and picked up 2 bottles of the antifreeze coolant, a gallon each, and they're about $30 a bottle. So starting off, I'm going to open up the expansion tank, and then I'm just going to start pouring in the gallon of distilled water. And we're going to be using all of it, so don't be afraid, just put it all in there. When the level starts coming towards the top, slow down the pouring, but you're going to want to keep on pouring because it's still going to drain into the system. I'm going to get my BMW coolant, and I'm going to start pouring until solid water and coolant comes out of this bleeder valve. Now, you want to make sure that there's no air bubbles coming out of there when you start pouring this. Grab yourself a little towel and just kind of cover up your belts, because you don't want to get too much of this liquid on there so that your belts don't become dry. Start pouring this in there. Now, I do want to use up the majority of this gallon, because as you can see, I only have water coming out of that bleeder screw. And since we're trying to make a 50-50 mixture, I'm definitely going to want to put a lot of this coolant. So far, I've only used about 1/3 of this gallon, and I definitely want to be using more than that, so we're going to keep on going. The gallon is almost done, I think. So I'm just going to pour this thing until it's pretty much completely empty. And that is about as close as we're going to get to that 50-50 mixture. Now that our system is filled up all the way, we're just going to get that bleeder screw, put it right back on there, put that on there. And then we're going to loosen the bleeder valve screw about 3 or 4 turns. So now to bleed the system, turn on your car. And then we are going to want to turn the heat up all the way, as high as it can go. Make sure the AC is off. Turn on your fan. Turn it up to heat. And so like this, we're going to allow all the air to escape from the cooling system. So what we're waiting for is for the air to become nice and hot, and make sure that there's no cold air coming out, because that will mean that all of the air is out of the system. So to kind of speed up the bleeding process, I put the car into neutral. I've been revving up to around 2,000 RPM, hold it there for a few seconds, let it drop, and now my air has gotten pretty hot. And so I'm just gonna do this for about a minute more, and then we should be good. Okay, now that the air in my car has gotten really hot, I'm gonna go out here and I am going to fully tighten the bleeder valve. Now we're gonna go back in the car and make sure that we still have hot air, which in this case we do. So that means that we're done and our system has successfully been bled and there's no more air in the system. Now to go ahead and make sure we don't have a leak, turn off the car, walk back over to the front, and just kind of do a little inspection, make sure that there's no leaks, no water dripping out the bottom. Okay guys, so that's really it. I'm just gonna go ahead and put this cowl back. I'm gonna have to re-zip that in place. But we're pretty much good to go. Once your air box is back, your system's bled, you're good to drive. Go ahead and let your system cool down. Check your level one more time.